Republicans, they are a messed up group of people. That's too many words, right?
Democrats.
They're searching.
Nice. Climate change or global warming.
It's real.
Okay. Donald Trump.
Asshole.
Okay. Hillary Clinton.
Smart, educated woman.
Okay. Gay marriage.
Gay marriage is a good thing.
Congress.
Ineffective. I believe that our government is succeeding in a number of ways. I believe that the Affordable Care Act is an example of success. Where does government not work? What's happened since 2009 when Obama took office was that there was just an absolute, the brakes were put on the one side of the aisle, on the Republican side, saying that they would not negotiate or talk with their constituents on the other side. That's a major failure. I think the government is very complicated, and I think that every person has to be an advocate for themselves, their families, and their community. And everybody has to be an activist in some way or another. You just can't sit back and assume that the government's working for you and everything's going to be fine. You have to always question what they're doing. But I don't look at them as the enemy. And every now and then I'll throw up my hands and go, I'm going to move to another country. I can't stand it if Donald Trump becomes president. That's a scary thing. But overall, it works. It's messy and complicated, and there are a lot of places it doesn't work. But overall, there isn't a better government out there that I know of. And but I believe that everybody has to be, you have to work for it. You have to be your own advocate. I think Citizens United, the Supreme Court ruling in 2010, is helping the polarization. I think that deciding that a corporation is a person and the unlimited amount of money that corporations and 501c4s can put into campaigns is an enormous problem, because no longer is one person, one person doesn't have a voice. And when a corporation has a voice, they're really pushing for things that are to their advantage, and it's mostly in business, and it's not necessarily what's best for individuals. People who represent the Tea Party, Michelle Bachmann is a good example. The woman is nuts. I mean, she's really nuts, and they bring God into it all the time, and Christianity. Right? They have no issue with bringing Christianity with religion into government, and they're supposed to be separate. I will tell you that when I say the Pledge of Allegiance, I leave out, I don't say the God part.
Oh, really?
I won't. Huh. No. And I got into trouble once at school board for saying it. I work with a person in my office who is from India. And he is one of the smartest people in the whole world. And he works his ass off, and he's an engineer. And he has 2 master's degrees, and he came over to Boise State to get his 2nd master's degree. And he's very necessary in our company. And the government keeps trying to send him home. And it just blows me away, because we can't find somebody to replace him. And he has to go through this lottery system, and his name isn't picked, so then he has to go back to school again, and it is the most complicated process in the world. And he's paying taxes, he's providing service, he's buying food, he's buying goods, he's a good consumer, he's adding to the production of our country, and we keep trying to send him home.
What if our government gave a green card to every single person that was not a U.S. citizen that graduated from an accredited institution with a master's degree?
That would be a great solution. Why wouldn't they do that? I love that idea. The New York Times 6 years ago would not print a single article about climate change. Now, climate change, we still have a few Republicans throwing snowballs halls of Congress because they don't believe it. Mm-hmm. The fact that they don't believe it isn't in itself scary, because it's science. It's not believing in God or not, but that's okay. But you have to have an overwhelming group of people that say stop or no. The Republican Party used to be considered that their citizenry, were people that needed to be helped, and that if you were less fortunate, that government would be there to help you, in some ways.
So
And
you're talking about the Republican Party of Abraham Lincoln.
yeah, I know. It's a long time ago. I recognize that. The Republican Party right now is a disaster because they won't work with anybody but themselves. I think that if you were required to register your gun the way you're required to register your car and insure yourself against, or others against what your gun might do, and if that happened if that happened 2 decades ago, I don't know that what would have happened and what has happened in the last year. Let's just look at the last day. It's ridiculous how many, right, would happen, because people would be held accountable for what their weapon did to someone.
Okay. Are you a fan of teachers' unions?
Yes, I'm a fan of all unions. They don't have a lot of rights without the protection of the union.
You said in your intro that you have a job in the private sector right now.
I do.
And are you a member of a union?
No.
So what sort of protection do you have against being fired or being mistreated that that a teacher wouldn't have if they were not a member of a union?
They don't have, well, I don't have collective bargaining, they have collective bargaining, but I have so you're, okay. I am an at-will employee, and so I can be laid off at any time, and that is my choice because I work in the private sector. But I have rights as an employee in this country, and I'm protected in certain ways. And I have the ability to move up in my company
Based on merit.
based on merit. Okay, right.
But why do teachers need a union to enjoy the same protections that you enjoy?
Because they otherwise they don't enjoy those they don't, well, I have to think. The starting salary of a teacher in the state of Idaho right now, they just raised it 2 years ago, and it's $27,500. And that is to educate our kids. So their salaries are probably half what a salary would be in the private sector doing something that's not similar because nobody's teaching, but they don't have power to change that unless they're collectively bargaining for that power.
But what about the fact that the starting salary of a teacher at the community school is less than $27,000?
Because that's the private school system, and that system sucks. Those guys have no protection whatsoever. None. And they have no bargaining power because they don't have a union. My dad, okay, we'll go back to my dad. He was actually the union leader for a short time at his teachers union. And I remember that, they were negotiating for a salary raise, and, it was late nights and all kinds of things, and they didn't get it. And, it was a very tough time in our family. And so I will go back to that. One income, my dad, one car, the laundromat, the whole deal. That's how we were raised. It was really, really tough. And I remember seeing letters in the paper from people who were saying, I don't get why we have to pay teachers so much money. And they weren't making any money at the time because they go to school at 9 and they get out at 3. Tenure does not work. You get tenured teachers, you can't get rid of them. There isn't an administrator that I know personally who thinks that tenure is a good thing, and most administrators
and so why
or
is tenure,
teachers.
why are we waiting 10 years to get rid of it?
Well, it's like, why are we waiting so long with climate change? It's a process, and it takes a long time to get rid of.
So what's the obstacle to the process?
The teachers themselves.
Or the union?
Well, the union. I don't think tenure is good. No,
Okay.
I don't think it's good at the college level either, by the way. Also, private prisons are a problem. I mean, there are many things I don't know, but I do know that when we spend more money in our budget to support our prisons than we do our education system, that we have things out of whack.